Aside from their versatility, dive watches are popular with collectors because they make us feel adventurous or thrill-seeking. Why? Well, they have specifications that allow them to withstand tortuous conditions that us simple humans cannot, and second, they're often worn by figures who do cool and dangerous things, from James Bond to Steve McQueen. But it's hard for a dive watch to get credibility nowadays. Everybody makes one. So what separates the pack of Me Too's from those who make real underwater instruments? Oris does it through looks and innovation. There is no mistaking an Oris for anything other than a dive watch, and all their divers are exceptionally well made and unique. At Baselworld last year in 2013, Oris swept the dive category with their Aquis depth gauge, an affordable mechanical dive watch with the least obtrusive depth gauge mechanism we've ever seen. Let's take a closer look. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be much different about this model from the Aquis, a watch we've reviewed before. The matte black dial, applied luminous hour markers, and bold hands from the Aquis date are present. There is the same unidirectional rotating bezel in a textured ceramic. But there are two things that catch your eye. First, the yellow scale running around the outside of the dial, just outside the hour markers. Then you follow it clockwise around the dial until you get to the semicircular cut in the sapphire crystal. This is the depth gauge mechanism. Here's how it works. As you descend, the surrounding water pressure causes the air in this channel here to compress, allowing water to enter it. Boyle's law is the fundamental principle behind this system. The law essentially stipulates that the pressure of a gas tends to increase as the volume of a gas decreases. So, more water in the channel means there is less gas in the channel, which means the pressure, or depth, is increasing. As water enters through the 12 o'clock position and pressure increases, water will continue to push its way counterclockwise through the channel, darkening it. You can read the depth level using the yellow scale around the outside of the dial on the underside of the crystal. Where the water, our darker line, stops is how deep underwater you are. What I love about the implementation of this gauge is that, like any great tool, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. In fact, one could miss the depth gauge on first glance, and that's a great thing because so many alternatives make this a focal point of the watch to the point where you look silly wearing it outside of the water. Oris is one of those few brands out there that can manufacture a serious tool watch like this that still looks good on the wrist even if you don't know how to swim. So I have a rule of thumb about Oris divers. Take the case width specs and subtract 2 millimeters. That's how the watch wears on the wrist. While the depth gauge clocks in at 46 millimeters, it wears like a 44 millimeter watch. But it feels like a 46 millimeter watch. It's heavy. Even if you wear 44 watches regularly, this is going to be heftier than most of them. So you need not only a 7-inch or bigger wrist to pull this off, but also an appetite for a weighty piece. If you enjoy Oris divers in general, this won't be an issue for you. It's only 15 millimeters thick. It could be worse. And that only helps make this more wearable than you would expect. Aside from the sizing, the general design of the case remains unchanged from the Aquis. The back of the case maintains a larger diameter than the front, contributing to its wearability. Same crown and guards, just like with the Aquis date, the sides of the case are brushed while the top of the short, angular lugs are mirror polished. The case back on the depth gauge is solid steel instead of transparent sapphire, so you're not going to be able to see the red rotor, but you're getting added water resistance in the trade-off. In place of the view of the movement, there's a lightly etched recreation of the depth gauge with the words patent pending nearby. Inside the case is the Sellita SW200, same as in the regular Aquis. It's a proven, reliable, and rugged movement that gets the job done. The depth gauge comes on a steel bracelet with polished outer links and brushed inner links. Instead of a diver's helmet-shaped box, this one comes in a water-resistant Pelican-style briefcase with a rubber strap and spring bar tool. I'm a big fan of Oris bracelets and straps. The steel bracelet is perfect for desk divers who enjoy the rugged appearance but want to feel like they're wearing a nice watch. The Italian rubber strap is also great for everyday wear, however, it has one advantage over the bracelet, which is its clasp. We wrote about this before when we discussed the Aquis, but the buckle on the rubber strap allows for on-the-fly adjustments, which desk and scuba divers will appreciate. Oris divers do have integrated lug and bracelet systems, so aftermarket straps are out of the question, but I honestly don't think they're necessary. Oris gets the details right when it comes to the straps and bracelets, as they tend to all be well made and comfortable. Oris's depth gauge retails for $3,500, which is an extraordinary deal when you consider both what comes in the kit and your alternatives. Watches with mechanical depth gauges are expensive, so watches like the JLC Master Compressor Pro Diving Geographic will set you back over 20 grand. In order to find something priced more sensibly, you need to go the quartz route with, say, a Citizen Aqualand or a Tissot Sea-Touch, which will run you about $500 to $1,000, but then you're not getting the mechanical movement. Oris is one of the few brands that can produce watches that can effortlessly cross over into civilian and professional territories, and perhaps the only brand that can do it this well for such affordable prices. The depth gauge is a perfect example of Oris at its best.